So let's take a look at the standings in the Eastern Conference. The Milwaukee Bucks still leading the way with 41 wins. The Raptors, though, right there on their heels with a win as the Bucks lose, just a game back. So, guys, I want to ask, with a lot of movement surrounding the trade deadline just this past week, the Eastern Conference, for the first time in how many seasons? 9, right? Mm-hmm. Feels a little bit open with LeBron James in the West.
Yeah, well, we call him Debo, so Debo's no longer.
But there's a new Debo.
Yeah, Debo is no longer in the Eastern Conference. He's no longer there to snatch teams' chains. He's able to go back out, and now teams feel like, hey, we have a chance to compete. We have a chance to go out there and win it. And so there's a lot of teams that feel they can get into the NBA Finals this year, and teams are going for it. You saw Philly make a lot of trades. Milwaukee made some moves. Toronto brought in Gasol. So a lot of these teams feel like their time is now. They're going for it. The Eastern Conference is as open as it's ever been, and the talent up top as a whole is probably the best it's been in quite some time.
Those top 3 teams made great plays to try to secure maybe a contention of winning the Eastern Conference Finals and move on and advancing to the finals. But Boston is who I want to highlight right now with Kyrie being out. How does this impact them?
Depends on how long he's out.
Well, he's been out a lot. And it's just, do they come back and kind of rejuvenate that surge that they had last year with this group, with playing Jaylen Brown, playing Terry Rozier, and kind of just grouping up together and becoming that team again? Because with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, they just haven't meshed together as that team. I think as of late, yes, but now once again we have Kyrie Irving hurt. What happens?
Yeah, we have to see how long he's going to be out and what that means. But this team last year, they did big things without Kyrie Irving, but the East got better. Toronto's better. Milwaukee's better. Philly's better. So I think if Kyrie Irving has to miss extended time, this could be very damning for the Boston Celtics, because I think those other teams will surpass them. But they're already ahead of them in the standings. But I think if they had to play in a playoff series, if Kyrie wasn't right, it would be advantage Philly, Milwaukee, Toronto.
Let's talk just this week alone then. Philly adds Tobias Harris to its starting lineup. Milwaukee adds Mirotic. Toronto adds Gasol. Who do you think got better at the trade deadline?
I think it has to be Philadelphia. They had a lot of questions, and they answered all of them at the trade deadline. Elton Brand did a phenomenal job. He was very aggressive. You go out there and get Tobias Harris, which bolsters your starting lineup. They now have probably the second best starting lineup in the NBA behind Golden State. Then he went out there and he got some things on the bench. You got Boban, you got Mike Scott, you got Jonathan Simmons. So they got the pieces that they needed. They needed bench depth. They needed another shooter in the starting lineup. They got all that. This team is very scary right now, and they need to be taken serious in the Eastern Conference.
I would say it's a toss between Milwaukee and Toronto. I think they got better. Philly, on paper, great, but now I'm still looking at coaching and if you can manage that team going forward and if they can be that team that's on paper. So I would say adding Mirotic with Milwaukee and adding Gasol in Toronto, those were the big playmakers, I think, in trade.
Who do you think then finishes first? I'm not asking you who wins the East. I'm asking throughout the entirety of this regular season as we enter the playoffs, who's going to be first in the Eastern Conference?
I think first is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is playing great basketball on both sides of the ball. He brings to you offensively and defensively, has a chance to be the MVP. You just talked about Coach Bud and what he brings to the table. Adding Mirotic will only bring more shooting to this team, and they're the best team in the NBA right now for a reason. They're a really good team. I think they finished the season #1 in the Eastern Conference.
And I'm going to agree. I was ready to argue.
No, man.
Sometimes
we got to agree. Sometimes we got to come together.
And so, whatever he said.
Well, that was easy.
That was easy.
Hey, listen, just agree with me. You go far in life.
Yeah.
Should I ask you who wins the East? Is that where perhaps it could get
Now,
contentious?
that is where it could be a little bit different. But as far as who wins in the regular season, I think Milwaukee wins in the regular season. Playoffs, it could be a little bit dicey.
Right.
I got Milwaukee.
All right.
I have Milwaukee.
I'm going to wait. I'm going to reserve.
He's like, we got a commercial
I got to
break.
reserve
We gotta
because
go.
I have to see where Kyrie is, and I have to see how you just said Philadelphia has to come together. I have to see how they come together.